Hey, everybody. Welcome to our inaugural episode. We are Monsters Lounge, I guess. I'm Tressa. Here's Jenny. Jenny, give us an intro.
Oh boy, Tressa.
Yeah,
You kind
right?
of just wrapped it all up there. It's
All
our
right.
very, very
Thanks for
first.
joining us.
Yeah, okay, good night. It's our very first episode. I'm thrilled. We are Monsters Lounge, and we will be talking about all sorts of things, not just tonight, but most nights
That we do this.
that we do the show on Tuesdays. Yes. Very excited to be here. And you know what? I'm very excited about our guest tonight, Tressa.
Me too. Fun guy.
Fun guy and smart guy,
Mm-hmm.
and he's written stuff.
Like what?
Oh, like this book, Messages from Mothman,
What's that?
which will be backwards. And also, there we go. Look at me
Yeah.
figuring out the screen.
Nice.
Well, it's a fantastic read. So pick it up wherever you can find the books, Amazon specifically. But anyway, our guest and our atmosphere tonight are amazing. It's very cold in the Midwest right now, a lot of snow. So we thought immediately Alaska. And
Hmm.
what else do you think about in Alaska other than Bigfoot?
Uh Canning.
Oh yeah, canning.
Lumber.
I always think about canning when I think about Alaska.
I think about canning a lot, so that's part of it.
Do you really? I didn't realize
No, I
that.
don't. No,
Oh, okay.
I'm lying.
Well, this guy has a battery operated can opener. So that's my reference to canning right now. And without further
Nice.
ado, let's bring on our guest. His name is Greg Lawson.
Greg.
I have
Yay!
never had a better intro than that.
No,
That
it's
was
good.
absolutely
You're
incredible.
so welcome. I
It's
wrote it for
good.
her.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Mhm.
just couldn't come up with the words to appropriately talk
Mhm.
about Alaska.
Well, you did. You did. It was very unique
Mhm.
and poignant
Yeah.
Thank
and
you. Thank
timely.
you.
Mhm.
You know,
Timely.
I really aim to pull at the heartstrings with my introductions, just my
There
words
you
in
go.
general.
You pull it
Yeah.
off.
Battery
Thank you.
operated can opener. Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you
That's
very
true.
much. So specifically, you're
Yeah.
all kinds of investigative. You do paranormal investigations, you do all sorts of stuff.
Yes,
And you've been to Alaska looking for Bigfoot.
I have. Yeah. So people always ask me, oh, so you're a ghost hunter? I'm like, yeah, not a ghost hunter. No. Oh, you do cryptos? Nah. So I have 32 years in law enforcement. So in that I've done most everything except for like traffic stuff. I mean, I've worked traffic collisions and that sort of thing as a
Mm.
patrolman, but I did the SWAT homicide instructor, and I'm currently a director of training for a pretty large academy in Texas, and um, you know my expertise is as I'm a former expert witness. I'm a professor. I teach criminal law at a local college, and that's what I specialize in. So, in my training and experience, I'm considered a professional researcher and investigator. So it doesn't matter whether I'm investigating a homicide or insurance fraud. It's kind of all the same thing. If you're using industry standards and best practices, it's kind of all the same thing. You kind of stay in those lines, but pay attention to the red flags that pop up, as we will probably talk one day about. That's where I got.
Cryptic.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
cryptic. So talking about how to get away with murder, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, do I not say that to someone in police?
Oh no, that's quite
Greg's
Fine.
cool.
all right. I
Fine.
know where a lot of yeah. Never
I'm
mind.
sorry,
Uh-oh.
what?
Oh, moving on. So when did you go to Alaska? How did that come about that you went to go look for Bigfoot? And where were you? All of the details, please.
Long story short,
No. Make it long.
oh really? Okay. Well, it was 1982, and
Hey,
I had just
you just
got
got
my
out of
high.
second grade.
Yeah, thanks. I got my high school diploma, and the world crashed like it did in 2008. right?
Mhm.
Everything, all the car dealerships and everything went down, all the manufacturers and everything. And back then they didn't bail you out. You either ran your business properly or you didn't. And so when that happened, jobs went away. And there wasn't anything for me because I basically had no skill. I was going to be a artist, and my father had a bunch of businesses, and my plan was he was going to give me a job and give me a lot of money so I could paint and do sculpture. Right? That was the big plan. That was
That's
the
a
big
great
plan.
I
plan.
love this plan. Can I sign up for this plan?
Oh yeah, it didn't
Me
work
too.
though. It
Oh.
doesn't necessarily work because when the economy crashes and your father files bankruptcy and loses all of his businesses except for here's a teaching moment,
Uh-huh.
the liquor store.
Oh, yeah.
If you're going to get
Yeah.
into a business that will survive everything, liquor store. Anyway, so yeah, I got laid off. I just got out of high school. I went to work for an interconnect telephone company as an installer, and I got laid off. I had a girlfriend who realized, wow, he doesn't have any money, and she, bailed.
Went
And
out.
I'm kind of sitting there, and I was like, well, I'll go to I'll go to a part-time job, employment service and see what I can get there. And I went in there and I filled out their application, and I got called in to this old man who's in this little tweed jacket, little skinny old man. I figured he was probably a CFO or COO or something. And he was just doing this, his retirement gig, he just seemed really smart, but just kind of doing it for fun. And I came in there and he's looking at my application. He goes, son, I have to tell you, first thing somebody sees is your handwriting when you fill out an application. And I saw this and I'm like, I don't know about this boy. Like, yeah, screw you, old man. I don't need you. Attitude. So I'm sitting there like, okay, well, anyway, you got a job for me. He's like, you don't have any training. You don't have any experience. I don't have anything for you. You need to go to college. I said, well, my father made too much money and he filed bankruptcy, and now I can't get any loans or grants or anything like that. And he goes, well, son, you need to go in the military. I was like, hell no, I'm not going in the military. 3 weeks later, I'm on the bus going in the military. And I
Oh, boy.
I went
That's how
in
they
the army. Yeah. So I went from long-haired artist to shaved head infantryman.
Oh, God.
And so when I graduated out of our AIT, the Advanced Infantry Training, I'd gone to airborne school, and I was assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division, and they came out and called everybody's names out and told them where they were going. And I had signed my dream sheet, right? You get to sign a dream sheet of 3 places, that you want to go and that they'll send you. Oh yeah, it's your dream sheet. You just fill it out. So I'd filled out Panama, Hawaii, and Italy.
That makes sense. Those are some good
being
dream
from
spots.
Texas, I was like, yeah, I want to stay warm. I want to go do some stuff. And they're like,
And
well,
where'd you end up?
Alaska.
Oh,
That's not the same as any of
What?
those places.
no.
Yeah. It ripped the heart out of me. I was like, are you kidding me? I want to go to the 82nd. I want to go, get deployed and do stuff and do this and do that. And they sent me to Alaska, and it was the best thing ever.
You had a great time, or was the best thing for what you needed at that point? Because those are
So
2 different things.
I can say this. I know myself well enough now that I can say wherever I go, it's going to be the best time.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
what?
I know that's arrogance. I don't know.
I just didn't expect you to say that is
I
all.
enjoy.
I like it.
I
I
enjoy what
love
I'm
it.
doing.
That's
And
fantastic.
but it was such a different experience going from Texas summers to Alaskan winters.
How so?
Um, just the whole geography, the culture. It was just it was amazing. I had such a good time. So when I was up there, I was reassigned. I went to what's called Black Rapids. It's a Northern Warfare Training Center at Fort Greely, up near Fairbanks, and they asked for cold weather indoctrination CWI instructors, and I had just gone through the course, and I volunteered. I was like, hell yeah, stay above the subarctic circle and ski all day long and hike and and
Okay.
it's just amazing. So I was an instructor up there for the winter, and best shape of my life, the most amazing terrain. I got to do some really great things. I wrote a book a few years ago with Rosemary
You
Ellen.
write books?
Yeah, I have one that's called Mothman. I don't know if you've seen it,
I don't know what you're talking about.
but I did one with Rosemary Ellen Guiley. She had come over. Hey, look at that. She had come over to my table at one of the events, and she had a detecting paranormal book that I'd written. She goes, "Hey, Greg, would you sign this?" And I'm like, "What is Rosemary Ellen Guiley doing asking me to sign a book? She's the popess of the paranormal, And
Nice.
I was like, "Where'd you get that?" She goes, "Well, I ordered it on the internet or on Amazon or whatever." And I said, I would have given you one." She goes, "Never give away your books ever."
Okay, good
So
lesson.
So yeah, and she goes, "Have you? Are you signed anywhere? I'd like to do a book with you." I'm like, "What?" And so we ended up doing a How to Be a Paranormal Detective book,
Mm.
and that was a great experience to have Rosemary Ellen Guiley as my guide and mentor and cross-examining me on everything I said. It was great. And
Someone
then,
needs to.
yeah, after that, she said, "You need to write a book about your experiences." It's like nobody wants to hear about that. And she goes, "No, write me a couple of stories, send them to me." So I did. And she goes, "Yeah, we're going to do a book." So we did Diaries of a Paranormalist, Encounters with Death. And a couple of the stories in it were Alaska stories. And I could have written more because my most serious, emotional, in-depth experience in the paranormal came in Alaska.
Really?
It was more of a metaphysical experience. But to this day, I get kind of a little weird about it when I tell the story.
Let's get weird. Tell us about this story, bro.
We're talking about Bigfoot. What do we?
I know, but you
I
brought it
know.
up.
You did bring it up.
Yeah, but it's just kind of a teaser, Anyway,
Okay.
so all right. So I was when I was up there in the summertime, I got chosen to work with I was in the United States Army in an airborne unit. It's a Charlie company up there. There was only 3 Charlie companies in all of Alaska. So that's like 120 guys per company. So it's 360 paratroopers, right? Which
Okay.
people think of paratroopers or whatever. The real word for paratrooper is commando. Your job is to jump in the middle of the fight, be surrounded, and cause havoc while everybody else is fighting on the battlefields. Um, I go up there and I'm in the airborne unit and get chosen for the CWI instructor. But then in the summertime, they started a program with the Department of the Interior of Alaska with a fire department up there. They wanted to start a swiftwater rescue, a pararescue team, because Alaska's so big, the Coast Guard can't take care of all of the coast, and they certainly can't take care of the rivers inside and the large lakes inside and all that stuff. So they wanted to train their firemen and their volunteer firemen as swiftwater rescue and pararescue. So they brought in 12 of us from the Army, 4 from the Coast Guard, and 4 from the Air Force. And Army guys' job was to set up policy and procedure for river fording and lakes and land navigation. Air Force was medical, and Coast Guard was delivery and recovery, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we did all of our helicopter operations. They sent us to Kodiak, and we spent 3 weeks with the Coast Guard in Kodiak, swimming the whole time, right?
Oh my
So,
God. Yeah.
yeah, the water is very cold.
Mhm.
After we got through doing that, we were there for 3 weeks, and on my time off, I would go over and do different things. But they had a little Russian historical society there because the Russians obviously used to own Alaska, and there was a lot of Russian influence. And so I went to the Historical Society over there. Back then, today you can look stuff up on Google and just have it right in your hand. But back then you had to go to places like historical societies or libraries. They had these things called books.
I don't know
And
what that means.
yeah, you actually had to look up in the encyclopedia.
Yeah,
don't-
Tressa, you
and
had to read
Yeah.
things like articles
It
and
I
was,
don't know
it
what you
was
guys are
weird.
talking
more
about.
expensive.
Yeah. So I did that, and I found this thing. There was a massacre that happened up there close to Kodiak. The Russians ended up killing a whole bunch of the indigenous population there. And it was at a place called Refuge Rock. And I kept thinking about it. I dreamed about it. Anyway, so my last day there at doing the pararescue stuff, we got cut loose, and I went over to get an Alaska Uber. Back then, an Alaska Uber in the 1980s was the least drunk guy at the airport that would fly you in a little airplane someplace else, right? It was, it's commercial airlines. Whatever, get in here, give me $40, and they take you. So
I just assumed it was a dog sled. So
I had him fly me to a place called Old Harbor. And it was really weird because I landed at the airport there, and I got out and had all my stuff, and he goes, yeah, town is that way. Just take off walking down that road. And you didn't see anything. It's just a road off into the woods, right?
Right.
And so I'm walking, probably 1.5 miles, 2 miles, something like that. And I come around this little bend, and there is a Russian Orthodox church in the woods.
Oh, that's got to be gorgeous.
1700s, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's old.
Wow.
And it's just all overrun and everything. I'm like, wow, that's crazy. So go ahead and look at that. And then I went on a little further, found downtown Old Harbor, and stayed at the Bates Motel in Old Harbor. And they apparently have a franchise in Old Harbor. Pretty bad.
It's disturbing on some levels.
Yeah, and so I went down and I talked to. There's a whole bunch of fishermen down there, and they run fishing tours and stuff out of there. So I talked to them, and I got one of them to give me a ride. He was taking his tour out, give me a ride to this island off of there called Sitkaladak Island. And so he dropped me off there, and then I had to hike about 5 miles over Sitkaladak to this little spit where Refuge Rock is. Now there was 2,000 men, women, and children that were slaughtered on this rock, and they were killed by two Russian fur trading ships that had cannon. So when they tried to round them up, because believe it or not, back in the 1700s, everybody owned slaves. I don't know if y'all know that or not, but oh yeah,
this is news. Maybe it was information in a book. Something.
Yeah,
I don't know what you guys are talking about.
So
wait, 2,000 people, was that like the entire village or community? 2,000 people is insane.
So there's an argument of whether it was 200 or 2,000, but
neither are great.
Yeah, I would say it would probably be more around 2,000. So what they did is the people there, it's really interesting. You can look at Refuge Rock today from Google Earth and zoom in on it from the satellite view. And if you get a chance, just type in Refuge Rock, Alaska, and zoom in on that thing, and you will see the sand spit between the two Sitkaladak Island sections. There's a spit of sand that connects them two. On the backside of that spit of sand, if you look, you will see that there is a big depression. That depression is man-made. I can guarantee you that the indigenous population dug that hole and moved that sand into the water, and they built a little underwater bridge that goes all the way to the rock, which is about 300 yards. You can see this on satellite view. And so when I was there, I'm sitting there watching this, and I am like 19 years old from Austin, Texas / Rockdale, Texas, and I'm standing there on this spit of sand by myself, as far from human beings as possible, kind of wondering what brought me here, what that was all about, why I'm standing there alone.
That Russian guy with the airplane.
kind of where it all culminated was I was supposed to be on Refuge Rock. And so
Oh.
I had been in the water for 3 weeks in dry suits and wetsuits, but I was like, it's not, I can do this 300 yards. I can do this. So I step off into the water and I start walking out on that, you can see that the ground is right there. And I got a good probably 75 yards to 100 yards, and the water was about up to my waist, and it wasn't real choppy, but it was kind of choppy.
Mhm.
And I knew that I was supposed to go there. And the only way that I can describe this is if you've ever watched a movie or a TV show or something where like a demon takes over somebody and makes them stick their hand in the fire or do something really stupid to themselves.
Sure, sure,
Mhm.
sure.
That's what that was.
I don't think it was a
I
demon, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, I had no this was just what I was doing.
You were on autopilot.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get about 100 yards out there, and I'm starting to float a little bit. The water's pretty high, and it's cold, and I started thinking about the animals in the water all around me because there is a lot of animal life everywhere out
Yeah.
there, and yeah, I lost my nerve, and I stopped, and I turned around, and I went back. And I can't to this day, I can't explain the feeling that I had over that whole thing because I completely failed at what I was supposed to do.
You
And
never went back?
you can psychologically talk all you want to about that.
Oh, I will.
This was something more than a decision. This
Huh.
was something that I was supposed to do. And I failed to do it. And had I done it, how would that have changed my life?
Yeah.
I think I would have been dead.
Probably.
And today, because I didn't go there, I will never be able to go there because today it's now a World Heritage Site. They
Oh.
made it a World Heritage Site in the 90s.
Hmm.
Because all those bodies are still there. They bracketed cannon fire in there from those 2 ships
Oh
and
my
kept
gosh.
everybody on top of that rock. And the way the rock is the village would run out there and get on top of that, and there was no way you could assault that place with bows and arrows and spears and rocks. You couldn't get up there. They didn't understand cannon fire, and that was so in the late 1780s or 1790s. There was a Dutch anthropologist that went through that area and actually ended up interviewing some of the people that survived that. So that's where we know with the Russians, of course, didn't talk about it. And the Inuits or any of the indigenous people there didn't write any of it down. So by happenstance, this guy came through there and documented all that. So you can look that up.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy. So it's like the Wounded Knee of Alaska, right? I mean, it was a complete slaughter. And yeah, that was kind of my real spiritual experience.
Yeah. What a profound moment. How do we
Well,
get from? Oh, go ahead, Tressa.
no, I would just love to speculate on what happened there for a while, but let's move on to Bigfoot.
How do we get from that sort of spiritual experience to going back up there to investigate Bigfoot?
Oh, well, so I'm after I get through there, I'm back, and there's multiple times and being in an airborne unit, we get deployed in front of everybody else, right? So airborne units go in first, they clear out an area, and then they fly in everybody else or drive them in with vehicles or whatever. So we would get assigned surveys for areas that they were thinking that the Russians would reinvade Alaska, because you can, in the wintertime, you can come across the Bering Sea. It's solid frozen there, and they can actually come across there. And what would be the route going from that peninsula all the way down into like the Anchorage area? So they send airborne units out there. We parachute in, and then do surveys with maps. And so it was meeting indigenous people out there and them talking about different creatures and different beliefs, right? So a lot of people say, well, Eskimos. Well, Eskimos is like saying Indian. There's a whole bunch of different tribes. The Athabascans in Alaska are in the center part of the state. The Inuits are in the north coast. The Aleuts or Lutic people are in the Aleutian Islands, and the Tlingit people are down in the southeastern part of it. So they're all very different. However, they all share very, very similar legends and experiences. And so I would talk to different people about that. And that was always fascinating because I always like to listen to their stories, because these stories, any stories from wherever, leprechauns, there is an origin story.
Right.
There is something that happened that either the experiencer got right or they misinterpreted it a little bit. But does that take away the importance of whatever the story is or the evidence of what happened? So up in that area, I've only been on the Yukon River twice, but that was always fascinating to me, is that the Yukon River is 3,100 miles long, a little over 3,100 miles long. And the United States, so what is it, 2,000 miles long? So it is a long river. It is super long. But these stories are all over Alaska. When I was down in Seward, Alaska, I got sent down there for the Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Center. I was a good boy, and they said, we're going to reward you and send you down there for a week. It was in the summertime. It was great. I mean, I was there on a Wednesday, and nobody goes down there on a Wednesday. I got there the whole week. Normally for Morale, Welfare, and Recreation, they'd send the soldiers on Friday and bring them back on late Sunday, right? So I was there for the whole week, and I was one of the only people that were there at the Morale, Welfare, and Recreation Center, which consisted of a Quonset hut, some folding chairs, and a cot, right?
Oh, sounds like a party.
Today, it's like a ski lodge. It's beautiful, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm there now.
Take
I'm
it
right
over
now.
and all that stuff. It's gorgeous. Back then, it was just above eating out of a trash can. And so they have Coast Guard men that are assigned temporary assigned duty, TDY, temporary duty assignment or whatever. And they drive these, there's 32-foot, 28-foot fishing boats that are they're pretty nice fishing boats. And they take the soldiers and sailors and Marines and stuff out fishing, just, for a morale thing. So there's nobody else there. And I go down and I talk to these two seamen, and I tell them about Portlock, and I tell them about the Bigfoot murders.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them how this town started, and how, white people came in and created a canning industry there, and all the local indigenous population came in and worked in that canning industry. And along those years, people started missing, being killed. They would find their bodies mutilated in some of the little tributaries that lead into Port Chatham and Portlock. And then I explained to them in about 1948, 1949, the entire village packed up and left because they believed a Nanticoke was killing everyone. Now, when you talk about Nanticoke, so the cryptids in Alaska, there's a whole bunch of different ones. There's really cool ones.
Oh,
yeah, there's some really cool ones that are supposed to scare kids away from the water, because they'll come out of the water and get you.
Are those the otter people?
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, they're really cool. But like Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Stick Man, that's all white man.
Stick Man.
Yeah.
Is he made out of sticks? I've never heard of Stick Man.
No. He makes little stick for you've seen Bigfoot. The little things that he makes.
Yeah. But Bigfoot, not
Yeah,
stick
they
man.
call him Stick Man up there. Because
Because
they
he
make
makes stuff with
little,
sticks.
yeah, he makes little
Okay.
stick things
All
and
right,
and
guys.
throws sticks at you also.
Yeah,
Um,
just throwing them.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So they like there's a it's called a Giluk. And it's like a shaggy cannibal giant, and they typically live near the glaciers, and they come and eat you.
Oh,
And they're also they call them what that guy a guy up near Denali Park that I was talking to. He called it Shaggy Man in a little hat. That that was the only way
Gotta
that he
have a
could.
hat.
Yeah, big shaggy man in a little hat. That was the whatever the Athabascan word was for that. I was
yeah.
like, what is it? Okay, that's what it is. I don't remember what he told me, but I said, well, what does it mean? What does it mean? He goes, big shaggy man in a little hat. I'm like, wow. I don't
Alright.
want to get eaten by that guy.
I
No.
want to know
Um,
about this hat. What did it
I
look
would like
like?
to know
Yeah,
about this
I
hat.
don't know. I don't know. There's
Little top hat.
stories about that. Yeah, I don't know if the hat ever comes off. I think it's just there.
Oh,
But you know,
Put up an
there's
image.
the Inuit people talk about tornets or hairy men, bushmen. There you got the Nanticoke in the southern part. There's a glacier demon also. Valdez Glacier has a glacier demon. That's a pretty good story because I think it's Colonel Abercrombie, one of the surveyors, one of the army surveyors that was up there, was talking to a Swedish guy that was up there. He was a prospector, and Abercrombie was talking to him, and the Swedish guy told him how there was a man and his son, and they were trying to get across the glacier, and the father was at the back of the sled pushing. You remember? Yeah, I don't, if you've never been on a glacier, I've
no.
glacier training, and the crevasses, the big cracks in the glacier, the the sticky snow will land on the glacier and then build like a bridge across the crevasse, but it's soft as powder. And the crevasse is 900 feet deep, so all of a sudden you're gone, right? You
Yeah.
just
Oh,
disappear. And so the glacier demon eats you, right? But it has grown from that. But anyway, this particular man actually said he witnessed this demon jump out, and he was smaller than what a Bigfoot would be, but very broad and stocky, and jumped on his son's back. And
what?
yeah, and killed his son,
Oh.
choked him to death and killed him.
So
And
he
this-
killed his son, is what you're saying?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and you can actually go. He's buried very close to there, and you can go to his grave down there. But yeah, so there's all kinds of really cool things. But the story of multiple people being murdered by Bigfoot, by Nanticoke, at Portlock is pretty amazing.
Well, weren't the reports like something like 16 people went missing in a very short period of time, and those were just official reports?
You
Like,
know what,
those weren't
Jenny?
even.
That's a great question, and we'll get right back to it after this message. Hey, yeah, what about that? What Jenny just said.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
I
Thank
don't
you.
know
That
what
is
happened.
good.
Yeah.
Do I look like this when I'm talking?
Yes.
Almost
I don't
entirely.
know what I'm looking at over here. So here we go. Depends on who you talk to.
Okay.
Of course.
Things that you have to consider whenever you're researching things like this is 16 people missing, official reports, right? Where are those official reports coming from?
Right.
What
How
years
official
was
are
this?
they? Mhm.
So we're looking at this being an active canning area from the early 1900s to basically 1948, 1949. And depending on what article you read out of what newspaper or whose blog or whose website,
Right.
They will say anywhere from 8 to 16 people. And some say it's a very short amount of time. Some people refer to it as, over that time period, there were 8 people or whatever. The problem with it is we will never know. The actual territorial police in Alaska was not created until 1958.
Oh, okay.
I didn't
So that
realize
was
that
10
was part
years
of it.
after the town packed up. There was no law up there at all.
Yeah. So where are these official reports
Right.
if there's no actual office producing?
There's none.
Okay.
So we don't have much of anything. The things that I'm trying to think of when you're looking at, we know that prospectors and hunters went missing around the cannery at different times. I want you to think about something. Most of the people that were working at the cannery there, if they were an indigenous population, they were people coming in from California, Oregon, Washington, whatever, to populate that area at that time. Remember, this is a very new state at that point. And I mean, they just didn't have the infrastructure. They didn't have the people. And so you have a lot of people that don't understand this area, don't know the mountains, and can't predict the weather. So you go up there, and there's at Portlock, right across the bay. So, I was gonna say, when I talked those guys into taking me around to Portlock, right? So we made the trip, and it took us a long time. But we got on property for about 2 hours, and we looked around, and it was one of the most weirdest places I've been. Once we got ashore, it was like everything was frozen in time. There was no weather at all. There was no wind.
What?
And it was just absolutely silent. There were 3 buildings up at that point. Now there's only 1. But we looked at that building. I wanted to look and find where the graveyard was. I think I found where the graveyard was. Went to where the cannery was. Looked in the water, all the junk that's in the water. It's a dump, right? Well, across the bay there is a chromite mine. You can see it, the hole for the chromite mine over there. And then on top of Red Mountain is also another chromite mine. And all you got to do is look up chromite and see what kind of minerals are leached out of that when you mine it and you refine it, and what kind of heavy metals could affect someone's perception on what might be happening.
Oh, what? I didn't even consider any of that.
Yeah, you look at the Erebus and the Terror, the 2 ships that got squeezed in the ice. It was in the 1700s. They just found the Terror. It's they're all sunk and everything, but those guys had a really bad problem because those ships were stocked with lead-lined cans of food. So for 2 years, these guys were ingesting this stuff, and on top of getting scurvy and freezing all winter long, and having to eat their dogs, and it was a horrible situation. But when you're eating heavy metals like that, no telling what kind of hallucinations or brain problems cognitive problems you might start having, right? So you have to throw that into the mix.
Sure.
You have to throw into the mix that there was no law there. So there wasn't, if somebody went missing, they're like, the guy went missing. Shouldn't have gone up there. You have in the 1940s, the late 30s, early 40s through 44, they're operating that chromite mine because they needed chrome for barrels, gun barrels, artillery barrels, and stuff like that. So they opened that mine back up. And you got to think about the guys that are mining that. Those are the guys that couldn't get in the military because every man back then was wanting to get in the military, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
They wanted to serve. And if you couldn't, well, you had to do these other jobs. And that was one of them. They got paid pretty good. Imagine going up there. You're from Oklahoma. You're up in Alaska. You're getting paid pretty good. You decide to buy a rifle and go dull sheep hunting up on the mountain. Yeah, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're doing. You're going to die.
No. Yeah.
Yeah. Now the
And-
bodies that were found were mutilated pretty
Right.
significantly.
Right. And once again, I am not minimizing the fact that there are people that have seen these creatures
Mhm.
that were not eating lead line beef or whatever, that were mountain men that had been out there their entire life and was like, I was not attacked by a bear. I was attacked by a Bigfoot. So that is not the case in Portlock. But
What
you
were
have
those cases?
those up on the higher up on the Yukon River.
Okay.
There was a guy named Albert Petka. He was a prospector and a fisherman, and he was at Nulato, Alaska, I think is where he was, and it's on the Yukon River. And he was further up in his skiff. He lived on a boat there, and he was further up the river on a skiff, and was attacked. And when he made it back downstream to Nulato, and that's what he told them, was that he was attacked by a Nanticoke. He was attacked by a hairy man, and this guy would know the difference between a bear and a Bigfoot.
Right.
There are people that have seen bear in the woods, and the bear has a hurt paw, and he will stand up and he will walk around.
Sure.
And he doesn't put any weight on that front paw, and he will, like a circus bear, and he's walking
Mhm.
around. And
We've all seen circus bears.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Circus bear with a big ball and jumping around. And so for somebody who doesn't know the woods and sees that, like, oh my God, what else does that? Only Bigfoot does that. He's hairy. It's a Bigfoot. I saw a Bigfoot. I saw Sasquatch. But yeah, that's not the case. This guy, Albert Petka, knew his environment. He grew up in that environment his entire life. A guy named John Muir. He was also attacked. He actually gave a pretty good description. He was attacked by a Bigfoot or a Tornit, and his dogs. He had a lot of dogs with him, and they ran the animal off. And that happened much further up near a town called Ruby, probably about 20 miles from Ruby.
Okay.
But when I see original reports from people, like what is this, or where's the origin report? You have to qualify your witness, right? You have to qualify this person. You have to figure out, all right, do they have good eyesight? Are they cognitive? Can they make good decisions? Are they aware of the things in those areas? What is natural and what's normal?
Sure.
And when you answer all those questions, you go, "What'd you see, dude?" And he just goes, "It wasn't a bear. It was Bigfoot." What do you do? Okay, that's what you got. And there's great stories. The Inuit people have great stories of the Tornits. They used to, the stories for them, they used to coexist. The Inuit people and the Tornits traded together. The Tornits did not have a language like that they could communicate, but they could meet and not fight and trade things. And a problem happened because a juvenile Tornit tried to steal a kayak from one of the Inuit people. And that's like stealing a man's horse in 1850 in Texas. I'm going to kill you. We're going to hang you if you try to steal a horse, because that's my livelihood. If you steal my horse, I'm dead. For a person living in that area, if you steal their kayak, they're dead. So he ended up this Inuit person ended up killing this tornit, this Bigfoot person, and that was the separation. They say when the tornits then walked into the woods and they were never seen again.
Now, of all of so we get a lot of like the murderous sort of reports and stories out of Alaska, and not as many coming from other areas. When you hear stories about Bigfoot or Sasquatch a little bit more south, they don't seem to be as angry.
Why are they so angry, Greg?
Cold weather
Is it
makes you angry.
because they're cold, or is it
Cold weather makes you
because
angry.
Ah, cold
Bad
makes
things
me
happen to you
angry.
when it's cold.
yeah,
Mm.
is
Takes away all your virilism.
Is it
Um,
the cold, or is it this sort of broken pact that they sort of had with the First Peoples?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know. Because you're right. It's most interactions, most accounts that people have about. I'm just using the generic, Sasquatch. Is not a violent thing. Alaska has the stories of violent things happening with these creatures. But like you said, it's very. I mean, you think, okay, the Yukon River is 3,100 miles long. We have 2 incidents of men getting killed by a creature that they said was Bigfoot on the Yukon River. That's it.
So just kind of one-offs, like that's
Yeah.
just what you hear is the violent thing, and not necessarily the stories of the trading.
Right. Yeah. You never hear any of that. And that is quite possibly a myth, right? But where did it come from? Was it, think about, obviously, I don't know if y'all know this, but I'll try to demonstrate. I have I have a protruding orbital ridge right here.
Boy, howdy.
Yeah.
Is that what that is? I was
Yeah.
concerned.
So you go and you look up 23andMe and you spit in a cup and send it to them, and they tell you what your DNA is. Right here, ladies, 3.5% Neanderthal. Hell yeah.
Nice.
Right.
Mhm.
And that's why, when Lynn comes out and sees me sitting in the garage, she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Nothing."
That's why.
"What are you thinking about?" "Nothing." Just sitting there. It's all
Already
DNA.
making stone tools?
That is all.
Is that
Oh,
what you're doing?
great. Yeah, I got them upstairs.
All right.
But so we obviously Homo sapiens and just Homo whoever, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, all of these guys interacted together,
Mhm.
and obviously we thought some Neanderthal woman was desirable,
Or
or
vice versa.
maybe it was vice versa. Yeah, vice versa.
Yep.
And so that happened. So why wouldn't it happen in Alaska 20,000 years ago, 40,000 years ago? Assuming that there were population there.
So your theory is that there's Neanderthal hybrids in the mountains living as wild people?
So
That pretty much sums it
I-
up. Good night,
Okay,
everyone.
good night.
believe, after talking with people with PhDs who are anthropologists and
Sounds fake.
zoologists and stuff like that, at Phenomicon in Vernal, Utah.
Mhm.
And they say, by all means, there could be a population of 500 Bigfoot living in America, and we would never know it.
Yeah, I think it's 500 to 2,000. They're
Yeah.
saying now.
Mhm.
So there's no reason why, up in those very, very nothing up there areas, that they could be hiding from the airplanes, they could be hiding from the trucks. I mean, we don't go in quiet. We're going to go in with snowmobiles or
Mhm.
trucks or airplanes or helicopters. They're going to know we're
Guns.
coming. It would be very easy to hide from you. The problem is hiding your tracks. They'd have to be very smart about the way that they transitioned areas and that sort of thing. But
We're
it's all
very
very easy.
very adept at it. I mean,
Yeah.
you look at indigenous peoples, and there's a lot of blending into the environment and
Yeah.
difficulty to track and
And who
all of
knows? The
those things.
tornats could have gotten with the lizard people and gone underground.
It's
Shut
true.
up.
Only come out for,
What?
That's
occasional
in
fights.
Iceland. You shush.
Yeah.
I don't know where that is.
Now, do you kind of think it's more of a like a flesh and blood sort of scenario? Because I know that there's some discussion back and forth about the paranormal aspect or even sort of the quantum physics aspect of Bigfoot versus this is a large primate that's just managed to elude being seen.
So, so I was part of a research group that were looking at doing a TV show a few years ago, and I've worked fugitive warrants, and I've worked with a lot of people that hunt down people. He's not a primate, in my opinion.
So there's more of a paranormal aspect to it.
So no, he's just really smart. Now it's very convenient. It's very, very convenient to say he's a time shift.
Mhm.
He's a dimensional being. He's a quantum leaper.
We actually
That's
rely on
that's-
theoretical matter at that
that's
point.
very convenient to say. That's why we can't find him.
Well, I
And,
mean, there's other reasons people say that, but sure, go ahead.
and I like it. Don't get me. I'm not.
Yeah.
I get to make fun of stuff because I do. That is a very convenient way to say we can't find him.
I mean,
And it
yes,
might
but there's a lot of other reasons why people say that other than that we just can't find him.
That's
Yeah.
It's not
true.
just like he's elusive, he must be paranormal. It's go ahead.
So
Sorry.
if he's really smart, if he's human smart, well, he can avoid humans all day long. It's not
Oh
it's
yeah,
not going to be an
not a
issue.
problem.
So if he is that smart, which let's say the Tornets that had this relationship with the indigenous population in Alaska, and they evolved in the last 40,000 years to avoid people.
Mhm,
There you go.
mhm.
There it is.
I get it. I've evolved in the last something. You don't need to know years to do that. It's
It's
easy.
true. She's very good.
I
I'll
can
be looking
avoid
right at
people
her 1
easily.
minute and then she's gone.
Yep,
Yeah.
Crazy.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Missed.
I'm sitting here looking at myself in this thing, and it's like I still look like the cat that got hit with the slice of American cheese. I'm like, why
You
am I
gotta
like that?
aim your camera down a little
Right.
bit.
Is
It's
that what it
like
is? I don't know. I'm gonna figure this out.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's an
this is
angle. I think
I
it's an
mean,
angle.
you've never podcasted before, so I get it. It's
It's
fine.
weird. It's this
Yeah.
whole situation is weird, and it's cold up here too.
I know it's cold.
It's quite cold. It's quite
Where's
cold
my
and
hat?
dark.
Can't find
It's
my
not
hat.
really dark.
So were there like some massacre with Bigfoot? Why are we here?
Yeah, well, the
We've just been
Portlock.
talking about it.
That's the different
Oh.
different stories in Portlock.
Oh.
Was it's like at the point of the whole town packing up and leaving, the cannery just leaving because of Bigfoot. And this is where a lot of the paranormal investigators go, or the cryptid investigator, the Bigfoot hunters go, is like, let's look at this this article that was written in the 1970s in the Alaska, in Anchorage Daily Times or whatever the newspaper was, and we're going to go on this as fact. And now we're going to go hunt Bigfoot instead of maybe doing a research on like the historical cannery project and find out why canneries were shut down and when and who owned them and how they moved their business and those sorts of things. So
Yeah, but that's
correlation
boring.
does not always equal causation. What?
But we still have all of these stories from indigenous people, and
Absolutely.
And there's something, if you start to listen to them, there's just this sort of spirituality that comes along with it, and this partnership.
Mhm.
Um, that
Yeah.
I could very easily buy, especially in a place like Alaska, just like you were talking about with your experience earlier. It's where you face so much unknown and so much information that you're just this tiny dot in a big, big world.
Completely insignificant.
Yeah.
So
That's true
insignificant.
anywhere
It's
I
crazy.
go. Uh,
Um, so because and like I said, I have no, when I went to Portlock, it
mhm.
was a weird place. I can say, okay, it was a very weird place. And the trails that were through there that were covered in bear scat was pretty phenomenal. So the
What was so
bear,
great about that bear
oh,
scat?
incredible, man. You had to walk around this stuff. There was a lot of it. And it's because the bear come down to those, the different, streams that are coming off the mountain, and the areas there as far as where the fish are, and the areas where the salmon are running, and that's where the bear are going to congregate. And the fact that in Portlock, the way that, um, all of the melt off, all the breakup, and all of the debris that comes down and is kind of flattened out right there, there's a very good place to go and walk around and do things, as opposed to just some mountains going straight into the ground or into the sea. So it's an ideal place for humans, and it's an ideal habitat for wildlife. And you look at that and you go, okay, what is the most likely thing that happened here as opposed to Bigfoot? Why
Mhm.
do we jump straight to Bigfoot? It's like, what the hell? What happened? Okay, let's say there's 6 people that were murdered at Portlock, and their bodies were dumped over there, and then they were chopped up and everything. Wouldn't we go serial killer first?
Well, I mean, I would. I don't immediately, but I've felt that Bigfoot was framed for this for a long time,
Yeah.
and I think that we've proven that tonight
Have we?
Well,
that
you've
I'm
that
proven it.
Bigfoot
confused.
did not kill anybody in that area. Maybe he
I
got a little mad. He was cold.
He was
I
He couldn't
mad.
open cans.
I know.
he was all out of batteries. I I I I don't
What?
understand why people didn't just okay, it wasn't a bear. Everyone says, "Hey, it wasn't a bear." But there's all these trails with apparently a lot of bear
A
scat.
lot
Like
of bear.
I
So
don't
here's what I had planned on doing last summer. We had put together a group. We were going to go to Portlock, and then I contacted the bureau up there, the Indian Bureau up there, and found out that that is all tribal land now. There was a law that was passed a few years ago that all of that open land, all like BLM, what would kind of be considered just government land, was all returned to the native people, which
good
is
for them.
fantastic. I'm
Yes,
completely for it.
Absolutely.
a
Mhm.
thousand percent.
But they're as incompetent as running stuff as we are. And so
Let's
you
not
can't
say
get out
that.
there unless you pay somebody, unless you have a hookup, unless this and that. And they had a TV show that went out there and did some stuff. And, I don't think they liked uh, them going out and shooting the TV show on their land and that sort of stuff. So,
Yeah.
um, I talked to, I can't remember what his title is, but I talked to him. He's like, yeah, you might want to wait a couple of years, then try to think about doing it again, because I want to go up there and do a survey of Portlock, and map out everything, where all the buildings were, where the streets were, where all that stuff was. I want to do a survey for the Chromite mine, and for Red Mountain, as far as the heavy metal runoff, and collect samples on all that stuff. When they were pulling all of the mining equipment out of the chromite mine, uh, at the water's edge, the barge overturned and all of that stuff went in the
Hmm.
water, and they just left it. So I want to scuba dive that and
Oof.
map that debris field and see what kind of environmental impact happen, because I think by doing that, it serves two purposes. I can do the paranormal investigative part of it, but I can also provide a service to the Bureau to possibly file for some sort of federal assistance as far as cleanup goes, because I firmly believe that there's some heavy metal issues there that probably should be looked at.
Well, and
It's
I
fine.
think we just kind of answered, like you take all those factors in to Triss's question about like why jump immediately to Bigfoot. You have a history of towns that have been either decimated or wiped out or abandoned, because this wasn't the first town that was kind of in that area. And then you have the environmental issue with the heavy metals sort of leaching into the environment. You have the legends and the myths that are already there, and you have inexperienced people who perhaps have never seen a bear, who perhaps have never seen any sort of like large predator whatsoever. So you kind of build on that.
Yeah. And for the people that are like, this freaking guy, I'm not saying it wasn't Bigfoot. I'm saying that I think that we need to eliminate the naturally occurring things,
Oh, yeah.
normally occurring things, before we go paranormal with it.
Listen, I want
And I would,
everything to be paranormal and crazy and weird,
Mhm.
but I'm
and
also not gonna be like, a blanket statement, it was paranormal, especially if he's gonna be a murderer, you guys, chill out.
yeah,
Well, and there's room for both. There's so
Yes,
much
absolutely.
space and so many things that are unexplored and unseen by human eyes, and certainly by modern eyes, that there's still great swaths of land that are not explored, and we're finding new things every single day. And there's a lot of paranormal out there, and there's also a lot of rational explanation.
Mhm.
there's a lot of serial killing stuff going on in Alaska because it's
Oh.
really easy to get away with.
Uh,
One of my mentors,
Are you
a guy
giving
named,
tips right
yeah,
I think so.
go up there. They'll never figure it out.
now? Ugh.
One of my mentors, a guy named Jeff Hall, he was a state trooper up there for a long time. He is an amazing guy. He's one of the only, I think the only United States law enforcement officer that has shot and killed a suspect while flying in a helicopter.
What? Is he
Yeah.
Magnum PI?
I know. I would have
Pretty
that on my
much.
business cards.
Jeff Hall is the man. You can look him up at
I mean, a person
forceoptions.net or hojutsu.net.
a person
And
is dead, though.
so
Oh, yeah.
him and his partner was killed in this gun exchange. His partner
Oh.
is buried like 20 miles from me here. And so they were looking for, I think his name was Sitka. The guy's last name was Sitka. He was a spree killer, serial killer. So he'd just walk up to somebody's car, shoot them, kill them, yank them out, get in the car, drive, go steal another car, steal a boat, steal a plane, do whatever he's doing. He's killing everybody all along. So Jeff and his partner started tracking this guy.
Let's keep in mind this is not a true crime podcast, and I hate it.
Yeah.
So,
No, I don't like any
sorry.
of where this is
no.
going.
Well, no,
But
I'm just saying that there is that possibility in Portlock
Mhm.
that this is a serial killer situation.
Well,
The
and
guy
let's
in the
not
helicopter.
rule out the possibility of the otter people. I mean,
Oh,
The worst.
so yeah,
sometimes they're
we have a
mean.
lot of those. We have a lot of the bear and otter people here in Austin.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Do you mean furries?
Mm.
A little bit both.
Just want to say that this is not a furries podcast.
No.
Thank you. I
Thank
meant
you
to
for
say that at
clarifying.
the beginning, but I'm glad you said it eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys, our time is up. But you know what? I feel like we can go a little bit long if we want to like conclude this story if we haven't already. And editing. But yeah.
All right.
I should have brought my cheese with me.
I gotta perfect that look before next week.
Yeah, for
Mm.
sure. You guys have any last thoughts on this or anything?
Mm.
Nope. Okay.
Apparently, I'm pretty much wrong.
No. I didn't say that. Did I say that?
Oh, fight,
I probably said that.
fight. Anyway, I like the looking for the reasonable explanation because everything past that is, all up to
Conjecture?
us. Yeah, all
Yeah,
up to us and
first
whatever you want to believe.
knock that out, and then whatever is not there, whatever is missing, is going to be the paranormal part.
Yeah. Also, thank you for telling me about Alaska because that is a place that I do not plan on going.
Yeah, it
Uh,
sounds terrible
I
and
tend not to go
huge.
north.
Fantastic! It's the best ever.
I'm sure
Yeah.
it's beautiful, I like to read about it. I like to
Uh-huh.
read about the cold, cold mountains, but I don't want to be there. I
Mm.
wanna go to southern areas where it's warm.
You're
It's
not there
good.
now.
Those are good.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank y'all for having me on. I appreciate it. It's a big honor for me for you guys to bring me on so I could just like destroy your show straight off.
That was
Greg,
my
it
whole
was
plan.
it's such an
That
honor
freaking
to
guy.
have you destroy our show. Before we even started, thank you so much for joining us.
It
Yes,
was my
thank you
pleasure. It
so
really
much.
was. It's my pleasure.
Everybody else, go rate and subscribe or do whatever you think do with whatever you do with the things with the stuff. You're welcome, America and
Good
other
job, Jessa.
places. Thank
Good
you.
job.
God. So until next time, we'll see you. We have been at the Monsters Lounge. See you then next week. I mean, God damn. Bye.
Wow.